go to this. So do it here. No, I don't put it here. I'll put it in this one. Yeah. So just a little bit about today's Torah portion. So I call it Holy Cow, because it ties in with cows of all kinds, especially in the case of this red heifer, a cow, and the golden calf, a cow. Well, a young cow, right? Before it's a cow. So last week, Torah reading was Kitisa, and we have a special reading then that Shabbat, because again, approaching Pesach, the theme of Kitisa, fundraising, because they need to get money for what's called Bedek Habayit, keeps the temple in good repair so they could handle all the thousands of people who converge upon it for the Passover offering. And then it is, I mentioned, it's a fund, it's a regular maintenance fund for the new tabernacle. It would all later on become the maintenance fund for the temple in Jerusalem. When the Romans came in to take over Jerusalem, one of the motives was to catch the temple funds, because the Jews had so much gold, sitting there. So anyway, in that very same Torah portion, though, about collecting the funds, in the portion itself, is the portion that we actually read 4 weeks before. And that was about the story of the golden calf, what we call the Egel HaZahav. And suffice to say that the declaration of reconciliation in that account between God and Moses becomes a core theme of Yom Kippur. We say, Adonai, Adonai, the Lord is compassionate and merciful. So one element of the reconciliation that goes on in the story of the golden calf is a very strange ceremony. There's somebody's rendition of a golden calf. Don't know if that's the original, but looks good. They say, Ma'ikal had egel. They take the calf, he takes the calf that he'd made and burned it, ground it to powder, strewed it upon the water, and made the Israelites drink it. I'm going to assume that the calf is not pure gold then, because it was maybe made with other elements so that you could have an ash out of it. So anyway, it's ground fine powder. And so we asked the question, do we have any other ceremony that involves drinking something that is dissolved in water? Here, to purify the people, they're going to drink something that's dissolved in water. Well, here's a picture of a woman drinking something in front of a Kohen Gadol. What is she drinking? Well, we have in the same book of Numbers, and just in a few chapters preceding the story of the portion of the calf, the red heifer, what happens when a husband is suspicious of his wife? He's overtaken by a fit of jealousy. He may be right, he may be wrong. Right? He's wrought up about a wife who's defiled herself. Or he's wrought up about his wife, but she has not defiled herself. So you write some curses, you put them in writing, then you rub it off into the water of bitterness, makes the woman drink the water of bitterness, induces the spell. They enter in to her to bring on the bitterness. So there, this woman is taking up the challenge, right? And gulping it down. If she is innocent, the waters do her no harm, right? So she's confident, she's drinking it, she has no worry. The upshot is that her husband and wife, now that the fit of jealousy is gone, because she's innocent, we won't talk about what happens when she's guilty, but when she's innocent, they reconcile, they begin to build their lives together. So now we can see a parallel. Here, the children of Israel drink the waters, they're trying to reconcile with God. The woman drinks the waters to show she's innocent, they're reconciled. You can see, again, building of a parallel here. The prophets look at the relationship of the children of Israel, of that of two lovers who are sometimes unfaithful and jealous. Jealous, like a jealous lover. The woman, children of Israel, like a prostitute, sells herself cheap. So Hosea, the prophet Hosea, takes a wife who is of a woman of ill repute. Apparently he knows it. God says, I want you to take this woman, and she's been around town a lot, and I want you to know what it's like. And so he understands God's problem. The people of Israel. He loves her. She doesn't love back, right? But what's the goal? The goal is a reunion of the two lovers. That's the goal. And so Hosea looks forward to this. He says, I will espouse you forever. I will espouse you with righteousness and justice and with goodness and mercy. And I will espouse you with faithfulness. You shall be devoted to God. Well, That is a Jew, when he puts on tefillin in the morning, wraps around the final wrapping around the center finger, and each wrap, he recites one line, V'astichli elolam, right? Betrothed you forever, betrothed you v'astichli b'tzedek, betrothed you with justice, v'astichli be'emunah, in faithfulness. And you shall know the Lord your God. Knowing God is, by the way, the only other word that where we use knowing a person is when there's an actual physical relationship, sexual relationship. There's a connotation here. This is that kind of deep, deep, warm, emotional relationship between the two. So now, you see, now we can see the burnt water and the golden calf is a test of loyalty of the beloved to the lover, right? It's an appropriate parallel. We fell by the wayside. We're willing to take our punishment. We're willing to try to prove we are innocent. The woman says, I'll take this. I'm going to prove to you I'm innocent. We want to get back together. So now, as I said, this Shabbat, we have this special additional reading, which is Shabbat Parah, Shabbat of the heifer, specifically the red heifer. And it is only a few chapters after our ordeal of the jealous husband. In fact, it comes right after we have all of these failures of the children of Israel as they're about to march into the land of Israel, between Korach and the spies. All of that is happening up till this. And suddenly we throw in this red heifer and we ask, well, why this now? We're talking about reconciliation. We don't use the word, but it is, impurity means a distancing, purity, a reconciliation. So now we have Zot Chukat Torah. This is the law, the ritual law of the Torah. God has commanded, instructed people, Israel, to bring you a red cow without blemish, which there is no defect, which no yoke has been laid. Really, red cow. We'll ask the question, what does it mean by red? The red heifer is slaughtered, burned to ashes, right? As I said in the woman who was going astray, the ashes mixed with water. The golden calf, the embers mixed with water. And then sprinkled on someone who's been defiled, becomes impure. So here is a candidate for the red heifer. I think it's a red Angus bull. That's as much as I know about bulls. I won't take myself past that. It looks pretty good. It's pretty red. So it leads to a question that have disturbed the rabbis for some centuries, and I'll get to that next. But right now, I do want to say, we have here a golden calf, and we have ordeal of jealousy and ashes from red heifer. They're all actions designed to lead to reconciliation. And the children of Israel were looking for a tangible, physical God in the golden calf because their invisible lover wasn't enough for them, right? And with this ordeal of the dust of the golden calf, they find some reconciliation, right? Again, in the ordeal of the jealousy of the husband, the name of God is dissolved in order to be a tool to bring the two together. And now with the red heifer, the dust of the red heifer, a tool to limit alienation and distancing from God that comes with feeling impure. So now we can ask the question, why a red heifer? What do we mean by red? Aduma. So we may ask the first question about the golden calf, where it says Egel Zahav. What's the color of gold? Right? We have white gold. You go to the jewelry store, you can get white gold. And you mix it with certain metals, and you get white gold. You also have a rose gold, very popular. And you have an actual red gold, what's called old gold, sometimes called Mexican gold. It has a very strong red tinge to it. So when we say red heifer, we may mean a cow that's not red like a flaming redhead, but a cow that has a reddish tone to a blonde or auburn hair coat. Might be like a rose gold or the red gold. So now we may have a connection here that the red is not so red and the gold is not so gold, but the two are really complementary with each other. So Rashi comments from the Midrashic source. Why was this rite performed with a cow? The red heifer with a heifer. Well, it may be exemplified by a parable, comparable to the case of a handmaid's child who defiled the king's palace. His diaper got loose and all the gook is out on the floor. And they're upset. And they say, let the mother of the child come and wipe up the dirt that the child has made. Similarly, since they became defiled by a calf, let its mother, a cow, come and atone for the calf, right? The parallel is made. So you can see the connection. The red heifer becomes a reminder there's always a source of purification and reconciliation when we've gone astray, as happened with the golden calf, as a mother cleaning up the mess of her baby. So it leads now, though, to a much more complicated question that perturbs the rabbis. It says this whole element of red heifer and the dashins, the ass, and so on, the ash, pure, you sprinkle it on the person who's impure, but the person who's doing sprinkling now becomes impure. Then that person has to be purified. Then the person who takes out the ashes becomes impure and has to be pure. And a whole chain, everybody's getting impure, doing the same thing over and over again. And the rabbis were stultified because they said it's very odd and irrational. And one of the things the rabbis did not like was irrationality. They really didn't like it. They wanted to believe that everything could be proved logically from the clear language of a text without resorting to too much invention. So all of the Bible in their thinking, all of the commands had to have some grounding, some basis in actual fact or practicality or pragmatic application. And that's how they interpreted Torah laws. So as far as they were concerned, when it came to faith, in the abstract belief, just for itself, faith was discovered out of experience with reality and experience with history. And these were things that, as the rabbis said, could be proved and verified. You know, there's that 600,000 Jews coming out of Egypt couldn't be wrong. That's their proof. So it's a different perspective from the classic Christian perspective, which puts everything on the concept of blind faith, whereas the church fathers stated, I believe because it is absurd, critically absurd and mass, right? And again, that's, to us sounds bizarre, but that's coming out of Platonic view of the universe, in which the ideal is more real than the real. And so forget what is physical. My thought of it is what is actually real. My belief of it is actually what is real. And that's, from that perspective, it's not a classic Jewish perspective. So we can agree or disagree if the rabbi's logic was solid, if it was really correctly based in fact, but certainly that's what they were looking for. And so this particular observance perturbed them very much. How could you have a ruling that did not have an explanation to it? There's no proof or reason behind it. And so the rabbis commented that even King Solomon, the wisest of all men, gave up trying to figure out. So here's a rabbinic discussion attributed to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the sage who saved Judaism from the destruction of the temple. So a stranger questioned Rabbi Yochanan, said, these things you do, he's reading the Torah, says, you got this thing with this golden calf, red heifer. It seems like sorcery. You take a heifer, you burn it, you pound it, you take its ashes. One of you is defiled by corpse, sprinkle 2 or 3 drops, and you say you're clean. So have you ever, so the rabbi answered, have you ever had a bad spirit of madness enter into you? Right? And then the idea that, psychosis in the old days was a spirit, a demon entering it down. Yeah.
Destroy the cow, the golden cow, will be powder, basically water and not drink. So somehow I connected with that action.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's an example of purification. Purification. Yeah, yeah. That's it. And they replace it with what? They replace it with an empty box that has some stones, some words in it. Right? I don't want to give you an image, right? Empty, but they got wings on it and so on. But the main thing is an empty box that replaces it so you can have words instead of the physical. But it's the reconciliation. That's it. Yeah. Very ancient. And it's the northern kingdom of Israel used the calf or the young bull to stand in for God. Now, the good question is, it's a Canaanite image, Phoenician image, and sort of off track, but the question is it God? Is that Baal, or is the calf really the throne of Baal? And if you actually look at Canaanite images and Phoenician images, you see the image of Baal standing on the calf. The calf is the throne, not the God. So even for the northern Israelites, they understood the calf is not the God, it's the throne of God. He's standing on the calf, right? Because the calf is a very dignified animal in biblical and ancient Israelite imagery. The Eglah Yefefiyah, a beautiful calf, young calf, powerful, vigorous. So, very attractive. It's considered an ideal animal in many ways. So that the Baal would stand on the calf was a sign of dignity and ability. So anyway, but going back, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai answers him. He says, "Have you ever had a spirit of madness enter into you?" All right. Right? The idea was, psychosis, as we understand today, was because there was an evil spirit entered the person. He says, well, not into me. Have you ever seen someone in whom a bad spirit has entered? He says, yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. So what did you do for him? Well, they bring roots, they burn them beneath him, and then they sprinkle water on the spirit, and then it flees. Oh, you see, let your ears hear what you're uttering with your mouth. This is an unclean spirit, the impurity. And prophet says, I remove the bad prophets and the unclean spirit from the land, and then sprinkle the water upon him, and he flees. You see, you pagans do it. You sprinkle water, your demon flees. We got this impurity. We sprinkle water, purity goes away. Very nice. The Gentile is very happy, has an explanation, and the students come to him. Master, you've replied with a broken reed. Broken reed is what we call a straw man argument. But for us, we understand that you're joking with this guy. What did he tell us? He says, by your lives, corpse does not defile, nor does a heifer purify, nor does water purify. None of these actions in and of themselves has any intrinsic physical merit. Rather, Holy One, blessed be he, said, I have enacted a statute for you, I've issued a decree. You do not transgress against my decree. Thus is written, this is the statute of the Torah, Chukah, an axiomatic law. In other words, it doesn't matter what we would have said. What we're trying to do is we want you to build discipline of adherence to God's command. That's what we're looking at. There is no purity. There's no impurity. There's no substance to it. And as the entire ancient Middle East up to this point, which has been built, all systems of religion built on purity and purity. Doesn't exist. Yeah. It's a very dramatic statement on this. Yeah. Yeah. Do it. Yeah. So what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is saying, that doesn't actually happen. It doesn't actually happen. What happens is you are listening to God and you're accepting God. And as a Jew, we don't say, I believe in God. We do things. And so in doing things, we show our observance and adherence to God. Everything else is irrelevant. So it's a very radical statement on his part. So how can he say this? It's a problematic statement. So, but the key controlling word here is chukah, an ordinance, as opposed to mishpatim. So we have chukim or mishpatim. We have ordinances and we have judicial decisions. So mishpatim, most of the Bible is mishpatim. There are laws against stealing, the laws against murder. They're grounded in human logic and experience. Even the holidays are grounded in actual experiences, right? The Exodus, or in agriculture. They're grounded in things that are part of actual life. And the rabbi said, we could have come to them without having the Torah. We actually could have come to all of them without having the Torah. The rules, something what people call natural law, right? They're grounded in logic and experience. But a chukah, they're very specific ones, which we may say axiomatic or foundation. An example is a shatnez, which you're supposed to mix wool and linen together in the weaving. No reason, no basis. It's an action of discipline, an action of loyalty. That's a chok, for example. So now we might say here that as rational, analytical as the rabbis want to be, they express something here that has a deeper philosophical issue. That there's a point beyond which pure logic cannot go. We might call event horizon. What's called the reiniges vernunft, pure logic. It can clarify things. It can, like Occam's razor, it cuts away the garbage, but it doesn't tell us the final answer. It cannot tell us what's the value of a human being, for example. It cannot tell us what a life means. It cannot tell us what is the goal for human existence. So one of the functions of chok is to focus us on those things then that go beyond the ordinary, beyond our straightforward logic. So we might summarize then the chukah, like the red heifer, helps us face those things for which we have no answers. As Rabbi Ben Zakkai said, its function is to remind us that our goal is to carry out the demands of that which is greater than any one of us alone or combined. So now we will go to another question, which is, well, there's no red heifer, and there's no temple, there's no sacrifice. So I've been without it for almost 2,000 years, managed to do pretty well. Christians claim that for them it was solved by Jesus. Jesus is the sacrifice. He's the Paschal Lamb. He's the Korban Pesach. And once you got that, you don't need any other, right? The angel of death has passed you over. You don't need anything else. That's it. What about you Jews? You don't have Jesus, or you don't have a way of atonement. And I heard that argument, but we have a better answer. Of course, I have a better answer. This is from the Midrash Tanchuma, about a portion, about where we talk about the Torah. And Israel said in front of the Holy One, blessed be He, Master of the world, you command that we bring all these sacrifices. But now the temple is destroyed. You see what we're reading last week and today? Sacrifices and sacrifices. What do we do to atone for our sins? There are no sacrifices, says the Holy One to blessed be He. If you want that they should be atoned for you, keep my laws. That's it. Observe my laws. How? Keep my Torah. And how do you know this? In the introduction to the laws of the sacrifices, it was in the portion we're reading today. Zota Torah. Now, this is the Torah. La Ola, for the offering, the Ola offering. La Mincha, for the meal offering. La Hatat, for the sin offering. La Asham, for the guilt offering. La Miluim, the ordination. Zevach Hashem, sacrifice. So, La. Notice, four. And this is what God presented to Moses at Sinai. Okay. Wait a minute, he says. Your reading is La. In Hebrew, 4. La Ola, La Mincha. But wait a minute, there is La with an aleph behind it. In Aramaic, La is low, not. All how you pronounce it, or how you spell it. So since the Torah in many ways doesn't vocalize the it may skip the aleph, we understand that it did not mean for the offering, but none. La Ola. In Aramaic, La. Sometimes I've heard La used by some Jews, I think Kurdish Jews still using that term. La. So, these are the burnt offering, the meal offering, the sin offering, the offering of the nation, so on. It is not about, but not. Not the burnt offering, not the meal offering, not the sin offering, not the guilt offering, not the sin. Rather be busy learning Torah. All right? In other words, Zota Torah. This is what you're doing. No longer the offerings. Well, we throw it out. Now, I talk about creative misreading. That's a good example. Learn Torah, and it should be important to you more as if you're actually making an offering equal to all of the offerings. So, we'll put in one last good word here, which is keep in mind that the nature of the word korban meaning to bring close, and most of it was eaten by the worshipers in the presence of God. So we ask, when do people eat together? Peasants and lords don't eat together. The ruler and the ruled don't eat together. Only close friends and family eat together. And hence we have the word in English, companion. The root word pan, Latin meaning bread. In the future then, right? So what we're doing? We're eating together with God because we are family. We're close. So in the future, maybe once again have a temple feast, human in the presence of God, and we'll use lab-grown meat for the ox, or better burger, or impossible burger, and everybody be happy. All right? And if I have a Christian next to me having his veggie burger, and a Muslim's having a veggie burger, halal, then we're all good. Yeah.
There's a high-end French bakery, like this, like for bread or something. They have it in New York City, and I think also here in Los Angeles.
La Pain Quotidien. Right. It's a chain. Yeah. Pan. That's French. Pan. Spanish pan. Right. Pan French pan. Sure. Italian pan e vino. Right. No. It's no. Ben Zakkai said we don't need a meaning for the observances. We need the discipline. Yeah. No, we don't need to try to find a logical basis on these. Don't try to logic them out. Maimonides has a problem with it because he's he's trying to explain, he's trying to find a logical basis for all the mitzvot, but there are some, its function is discipline for the purpose of discipline. That's it. Yeah, it's discipline for the sake of discipline. Yeah. So Donny Pork, there, there's a good question behind the kashrut. Where are the basis? Where's the foundation? Is it only a discipline foundation? See, because so Jews were able to find reasons to justify. So they would come up, you would see all sorts of, they would attempt to justify, but there were certain ones they couldn't justify. That's, yeah, yeah. Yeah, look at the pork. You make that kind of trichinosis, the shellfish, bottom feeders, so you make that kind of explanation. Yeah, yeah. That would be a lot of path of many Jewish thinkers, the function. Now, Kabbalistic thinking, no. Kabbalistic thinking, all of these mitzvot affect the universe in Kabbalistic thought. They affect, and Hasidic thought also. So we're doing them. All of these actions affect the entire universe. So a very different perspective. Yeah.
Yes. Also, thousands of years ago, with pigs, did they have like a disease?
Yeah.
Like,
actually, we don't know. It would be. We don't know. We do know that it's the Greeks that ate pigs, and the Philistines were Greeks, and the people of Israel didn't. And it was one of many animals, though, that they didn't eat because they didn't eat camels. The Arabs eat camels. They didn't eat camels. So there are quite a lot of examples as the pig stood out in the conflicts with the Greeks and the Romans. That's where it became significant, really much later.
Pigs have cloven hooves. I mean,
yeah,
they're almost kosher.
Right, they don't chew their cud. That's it. Right. So the Bible uses an example. The only reason the Bible mentions the pig is because it's a contradiction. And so it points it out. But the camel has a hoof that is a padded hoof. It chews its cud. So the inside under the hoof, there may actually be a split, but you don't see it. It's not visible. It's not available. There may be a case for hippopotamus, I think, or something like that, but unlikely. Yeah, but the whole point is, it's this sense of discipline. This is going back to Mendelssohn. I know you showed there's an exhibit on Mendelssohn. One of the key points of Mendelssohn in bringing Judaism and modernity together was to say that Judaism was revealed law and not revealed idea, and not revealed blind faith. Right. And it was, so we have our observances. These are ours, our ordinances. Right. So we're not stuck like you Christians. We can adopt Aristotle and we can adopt Newton and even Spinoza sort of. I don't think we would take Spinoza, but we could, and still get away with it. But you can't. So we're better. That was his whole thesis. All right. So yeah. Oh, because there's a tremendous identification with certain Christian groups, with biblical Israel and the Jews. And there always was in Christianity a certain element, what's called millenarianism, which is looking for the end of the millennium, the return of Jesus in some way. And so many of them, in adopting the idea of Christian Zionism, looked at the Jews returning to the land of Israel as, well, this is fulfillment of the prophecies. If that's the case, and we see it in our own days, we're not going to be enemies of the Jews. We should not be enemies of the Jews. It's God's people. They didn't take Jesus at the right time. Okay, that's their problem, but they're God's people still. And even the Catholic Church says God never gave up his covenant with the Jewish people. The Catholic Church in modern times made it as a statement, a major statement. How Jews? Everything's a mystery. So yeah. But so for them, this return of Israel to the Jewish people, the land of Israel, is very significant because they're looking at it from their perspective of a return. There will be an ultimate return. We just postponed it by 2,000 years. That's as far as between Jesus, the first return and the last return. The Muslims also are waiting for a turn of the Mahdi, not the reincarnation of Muhammad, but an ultimate redeemer, also in Islamic thought. So anyway, so for them, the idea of a temple is a big deal. So if that's the case, they're going to help us do it. So it's not out of. I know we're very suspicious. They want to just converse. It's not that kind of thinking. They want the end of the world to come, and so they're going to sacrifice the Jews. It's not that. It's not that. It's actually a deep felt identification with Jews. I've listened to Pastor Hagee, for example, out of Texas, speak, and he understands us better than I think a lot of us do. And no, she's not Jewish. No, she's not. Well, my family, no, they're actually good friends with her, and they're with him. Yeah, yeah, no, but he's very, very close he's individually close with Jews and with the Jewish community in Texas, and he understands Israel. He really does. Understands Jewish. So with that, doctor, you're going to give us a little slideshow here. We're making progress on this project, and go ahead. Yeah, let's put it in and see how it goes up. Upside and downside. Hold on. And then we'll make Kiddush. There we go. Okay. So we're going to go into the share screen. That's okay. No, I don't scan it, but now we need to open the. Let's go here. Open this. Annotated world news. There we go. We got lots of stuff in it. Backed up, and I'll hit the share.
And how
Yeah, just use the. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. So just use the mouse. You can go up and down with the mouse. Put this over out of the way here. Okay. I can make it larger. Let's see. Slideshow. Here we go. Let's see if I can, from the beginning. There we go. Now, with the wheel. Go ahead. Yeah.
What we will do today, short, it's part of our activity to provide annotated world news from memory and action. Annotated world news from memory and action. You will see what is it. It's our statement, how we present news. We're not select sources, pro-Israeli, anti-Israeli, pro-Palestinian, and so on. We use reputable sources. And we try not to impose our opinion. It would be pro-Ukrainian, pro-Israeli, anti-Russian, or something like that. We just create an annotation for the reader to understand the article and decide for himself. But again, the media and press coverage are reputable, bold sources. This is our statement. So several small themes. Of course, we start with Israel. Yeah, pretty troubled face of Benjamin Netanyahu. He faces a crisis, as I say in this article. I'm not citing, there is no article, but I'm briefly saying, crisis, actually, it's more internal crisis. Besides the war, the time of exemption of ultra-Orthodox academies from the draft signed back in 49 by Ben-Gurion, it's coming to an end. The Supreme Court of Israel actually nullified this exemption. So Netanyahu need either prolong it and save crisis from one side, or just end it, and then ultra-Orthodox party would threat to exit the government. The government may collapse. This is his internal threat, not to say about something else. The other, many people say, again, it's a popular parlance. It's not world sources. So America almost abandoned Israel. America has not abandoned Israel. For American government, is very inappropriate what Israel is doing. And President Biden called it a red line. But don't forget, with the same language,
It's very true.
yeah,
very
which,
The
right.
Democrats will not win a re-election unless Hamas.
It's exactly, it's more American problem. The all deliverance, all previous sale of weapons to Israel, bombs, missiles, all other ammunition is going on in the same speed. Nothing has been halted up. The administration only just thinking maybe what we can do to restrain, to put some written guarantees that they will not use it against civilians. But the weapon delivery, unlike the Ukraine, for Iron Dome, no questions, everything for bombs, for munitions, for this ground operation, it's full speed continuous delivery. For Biden, it's internal and external problem. He's friend of Israel, committed, but it is a red line if the ground operation in Gaza will start. For Biden is more personal, for Netanyahu more personal and psychological. He canceled the visit of high-level Israeli delegation on Tuesday after this vote on March 25. The first in the history, remember the entire history of Israeli-American relations that Americans did not veto the, as Israel may see, anti-Israel resolution, but they abstained. I'm glad it passed. It doesn't say anything about Hamas calling for immediate ceasefire. It's sponsored by a group of countries, and let it pass. And Israelis saw it immediately as an act of betrayal, not thinking that the weapon is continuing coming in, the old aid is continuing coming in, nothing really besides just passing this resolution and the state of hunger in northern Gaza. It's all going on. This is an illustration of how much the Israeli Orthodox Party is outraged. That was Rabbi talked about that in 49, Ben-Gurion signed the declaration for around 400 Jewish scholars allegedly survived the Holocaust, be exact. Then it happened to be 4,000 and 40,000, and it's going on. It's a balance of Israeli politics. And there's almost 1.5 million ultra-Orthodox population. So it's a problem, internal Israeli problem, and a problem of equality too. Serving and not serving in the army. So that might come to the end, Netanyahu will face a crisis. So we're coming to another part of the world, Ukraine and Russia. Russia is back to Stalinist future. Probably never, besides Gorbachev and Yeltsin time, was not in a, or maybe Brezhnev, in a Stalinist future. What does that mean? Stalin was terrible tyrant. The level of repression when tens and tens of thousands were in prison, millions died in prison, and there was no law, lasted for almost 30 years, created Soviet Union this way and won the war. But what's the difference between Stalin and Putin? Stalin has something like a checkpoint or some kind of a ultimate above. He was unlimited tyrant, but what was above him? Bolshevik ideology. It still was a Bolshevik ideology, communist ideology, and allegedly everything what they had been doing, he had been doing, was related to the goal of communism and to the prosperity of all working people. So this was Bolshevik ideology. It was always covered an umbrella. For Putin is different. He's very modern. He served a number of years in East Germany as a high spy. He knows Western side, he knows Soviet Union, he knows psychology of the people. He came to the power in 1999 in the wave of this terrorist attack, uncertainty, troubled time. He started the second Chechen war, pretty successful, promised Russian people security and allegedly guaranteed them security. For him, there is no communist ideal, not that much even a nationalist ideal. He sees himself as a Peter the Great, the one who collected Russian lands, the one who created great Russian Empire, and the one who westernized Russia. And this is the point. Putin westernized Russia and made Russia great because he had westernized Russia, took all this positive, useful Western civilization of that time, technology and politics and behavior and societal relations, and placed it on Russian soil, very, very successful. And on that, on top of that, he started many wars and collected many lands. His successors continued that until the Russian Empire became, a European empire. Yes.
What does the Z?
Oh, it's a Russian symbol. When they invaded Ukraine, all Russian tanks, armored vehicles, everything had the sign of Z. Several interpretations of what it would be, but this is Kremlin star, which had an absolutely different emblem. It was hammer and scissor, but now it's letter Z, which is symbol of an invasion of Ukraine. There are several interpretations what exactly Z means. Yes, all have marked with Z, especially in the beginning. They don't interpret it in another way. And Putin using West. Russia already deeply integrated into the West, and its economy is being fueled by selling oil and gas to the West. At the same time, Putin presents himself and Russia as a leader of new collective South against collective West. So that's even more complicated, perplexed, and more difficult for West, because the Cold War was very clear. Two sides, and they all looked through the guns to each other. Now it's not like that. It's deeply integrated Russian economy into the West, which makes it very difficult for the West. And then comes this terrible massacre on 23rd, probably on 22nd, March 22nd. It is Crocus City Hall. It's a mall. It's a big shopping mall. In the outskirts of Moscow with a concert hall. There's no security whatsoever. Russian security service is much, much more interested now what people think, what people read, and if is any dissent, any anti-government trends. The security was minimal. So they brought weaponry, they brought explosive, everything. Who they? It's another question. And it's one, probably 42, maybe more dead, and even more wounded. They're still recovering. They were ISIS-K immediately claimed responsibility. It's not good for Russia. They claim themselves to be leaders of collective South, and ISIS-K or Hamas, they're still part of this collective South. They do conduct anti-ISIS operation in Russia. There are many centers, but like on a local level. But something like that, it's European level, like Brussels in 15 and 16, like Paris. It's absolutely different level of this terrorist attack. What they did, what they need to find not a real enemy who stands behind. And of course, Ukraine stands behind it, and collective West stands behind it. Is it financing, or Ukraine preparing window on the border and letting this terrorist leave? They're still looking for connection with Ukraine and keep also Ukrainian leadership and Russian intelligence all prove that it's not them, but they need to do that for Putin to justify this continuous method of suppressing all civil liberties and unifying the country. They're still working on finding Ukrainian trace here. That's how this city hall, this mall looked. What happened in Ukraine? They accused Ukraine, and Ukraine is very limited in weapons now. They're using this drone to try to destroy this oil refineries in Russia, pretty successful. And Russia responded with accelerated number of missiles drone attacks, pretty sophisticated missiles like guided missiles, which very difficult to intercept. So this is Kiev, look like almost like Gaza. This is Kiev on March 25th. There is not only one scene there. At the same time, in America, this aid to Ukraine, $60 billion, which not only monetary aid, it's also more moral and symbolic aid, still frozen, and still Speaker Johnson still promising to, put it on the table for discussion, perhaps after this recess in April. But the very fact, it's very has negative consequences in all respect for Ukrainian government and for Ukrainian men who defend Ukraine. Terrible shortage in ammunition, in gunpowder, and in morale, because a lie is almost lost. But it's still hope that the Congress will vote, but already almost half a year delay. It's almost back to Russia, but there's 1 year of Evan Gershkovich, journalist from Wall Street Journal, is imprisoned in Russia. Probably you remember that 1 year ago, end of March 23rd, 2023, he was arrested, not in Moscow, not St. Petersburg, but Ural city, Yekaterinburg, the city where the Tsarist family near it was annihilated, murdered. Why he went there? It's a pretty much restraints for movement of journalists in Putin's Russia. He wanted proof about these military productions and some perhaps dissent with regard to people, with regard to the war in Ukraine. He had his own sources, he reported from there, and he was arrested as a spy trying to penetrate into some military facility or just get collected data about some military facility. Pretty typical charge, indefinite charge. He's a year in the prison. It's another 90 days prolonged. His incarceration, pre-trial incarceration. The reputable American sources say this is 90 days, perhaps was a new negotiation between the American and Russians exchange that one was swap. It's nothing like he would be he would be released in prison. It didn't happen in Russia this way. It's only a swap between some available for the Russian agents, which probably kept in American custody. But he's definitely, that's not very few journalists now serve in Moscow proper. And if they broadcast, give an interview or something, you hardly see them doing it on the street, from their apartment, from their inside. It's absolutely become not plausible to do this, even close to free journalism. But this is the fate of Aaron Gershkovich, journalist from Wall Street Journal. That's a sad event. Recently, this week, Senator Joe Lieberman passed away. He's probably last photograph in last awards. You probably well remember 2000, right? When he was on the same ticket with Albert Gore. And many said that it was a wrong decision for Albert Gore because he never gave up his senator seat and was pretty much decisive, especially when it's all recount came, such behavior. It was like Jewish behavior and other things, but he was very much definitive on Israel, and that what the article says here. So his last words, you need to understand his state also. Deep illness, he warned Biden and Chuck Schumer that they're doing wrong things. They're probably not doing very much wrong or right. It's more like discourse, but it's very sad. He passed away. Just an American event, it's interesting discussion. It lost control, this congressship, but some argue that the Baltimore Bridge was not. They say immediately it's up to the court, and it was everything fine, but there were no offenders, no are offenders that could have prevented it. Life lost, at least six workers who were on the bridge at that time, and it will take months and months to restore the bridge. So American infrastructure, they're not talking that much now about that, but is not in a good shape. It's more about us. You probably know this. The first time in 1,000 years, the Polish built a huge museum called Museum of Polish Jews Museum. It's good for Joe, Museum Historii Żydów Polskich, tak? It's a museum of Polish Jews, history of Polish Jews called Polin. And this is interesting. They collect fundraising. It's more like a representation, very modern museum. It's more like to show that it existed when it's now Jews, but the history is so rich in all respects. Jews were so much integrated. And the between war period, 1939, it's a preparatory for Israel. Most of the countries, political and military countries for post-war Israel for 48 were prepared in internal Poland, partially in Romania. All this military and political elite came from Poland. And this is a Polish director, she was a Polish Catholic, as like in Auschwitz. It's very interesting. Paul took it very close and very seriously, this Jewish history. But it's always any museum needs money. And Poland is a pretty successful economical country, but the most of the funds come from abroad, and that good that they integrated in the European Union. There are many programs. All this digitization in Polish library, all these resources preserved is from European, special European fund. But this is, again, $1 billion, I believe, is given by what? By the Minister of Education of Federal Republic of Germany. This is Minister of Education, came to Warsaw to the ceremony of the Minister of Education to the left, and director of the museum to the right. Is a ceremony and the transferring funds to this to the museum. I remember, I guess, 1 million euros, probably not 1 billion euros. But regardless, it's been financed by the European Union, and who rules the European Union? Germany and France, financially, at least. So we, as a Memory and Action Project, will be happy to find some kind of this foreign investor and donor. And on this, I'd like to conclude this short survey. And you can see it's also on our Facebook and Memory and Action page. Thank you. Next question. Thank you.
Yeah, so what we've, yeah. Yeah. The new president, I think, wants to build the relation. The previous one was causing problems. It was too much of a Polish nationalist to deal with any issues. Yeah.
Prime Minister, President.
Yeah. But the main thing is that we have now a Facebook page for the web also. So all of these things are appearing on the Facebook page, so people can find them, follow them, track them, and we're looking at different ways to get people to track. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they're acting the part. The Hungarians are a little bit more problematic, but I think they too want to work along. I think they have more nationalistic perspective, but the Hungarians not so much. The Poles are very scared, but they have their conflict with the Ukrainians about the grain imports. I think they're coming to a resolution on that. Yeah, yeah. We're in this ironic situation that Germany is now the great defender of Europe. It's very ironic. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
What's Turkish position on the Russian-Ukrainian conflict?
Turkey, we don't know anything about Turkey. Do they have a position? Is there a consistent position? What do you think? What? The Turks. Have the Turks done anything about Ukraine?
No, it's like remember Swedish
Yeah, they blocked Sweden and then they accepted it.
Of course, Turkey is always friends with strong and Putin is very important to Turkey. Technically, Turkey should support Ukraine much more because of the startup population and they can do a lot. But Erdogan sees himself as a mediator, as a negotiator, and they don't have any specific position. The position is good for Turkey. They try to present themselves as a mediator, and sometimes it works, but there is no like devoted position European countries. Was a right cause. There is no right cause.
I don't think they have any consistent foreign policy. It's one day they're friends of Israel, one day they're enemies of Israel, one day they're friends with Iran, against Iran. Yeah. Yeah.
Turkish and one wanted to be the leader of the Islamic world.
I know. Yeah.
Nasser had the charisma, and he had the chance to be the leader of the Islamic world. He passed away. The Turkish tried to be the same, but nobody, the Arab don't want him to be.
Yeah, it's not working.
But it didn't happen. They don't want him. They want to have the.
Yeah, they don't want they don't want the Sultan anymore. Yeah.
No, the Muslim leader has to be the Arabic leader, not Turkish.
Yeah.
Now, Turkish in a really bad position because for one point they selling under the table to Russia and stuff, and then for other point they NATO. So they asked the F-35, and the United States told them, no, if you buy from Russia equipment, we cannot let you because the Russian will start to So Turkeys, they jumping on the boat.
Yeah, whichever way the wind, it's like this, or with Erdogan, I think so. All right, listen, so it's very interesting. So we can bring in these things. The idea is later on, we will try to create symposium, discussions, right, so that we can serve as a, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm telling you what it's written there.
Well, I know one of the things that the Zelensky's had to do with is taking out corrupt figures. I know that.
$10,000 and they let you go out of the country. You don't have to serve the army. I don't know if it's true, but it's saying in the Hungarian news.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I say 10,000 or 4,000, it happened. Yes, there are instances people pay money, find this corrupted, commissars and listing such as get the certificates. It happened, right? It has been happening. On the other side, I mean, true, of course, there are instances like this. Yes, there are instances like this. But at the same time, if you're in several European and Hungarian newspapers, there is a scandal in Hungarian government pretty serious about corruption. None of the government pretty on corruption. But the European Union, they just gave Ukraine a long list, do this. When it comes to serious things, I mean, as I did, and Macron just said, maybe we can have boots on the ground. Scholz and others said, no, how we can do it? Not even think we provoke Russia. Not serious how they really defend democracy. But Macron wants to be a new European leader, really is nobody else. He said we are not excluding this. Speaking of the selling weapon, it's overall a nonsense. Ukraine in a great shortage of weapon, and every piece of weapon is something like a quarter or 60% as a front line. Like we just said to set country weapon, if they desperately need not that money but weapons. So that definitely doesn't make any sense about that.
Yeah, we'll just wrap this up. Okay. This. That's it. No, I can't. Okay. So, we just wrap up now with Kiddush. We go for Kiddush. And so, as I say, there are a lot of potentials in this recording history, synagogue history, local Jewish history, importance of Jews in different aspects in the culture of Los Angeles, the culture of the United States as well. So all of that's being developed. Let's go make Kiddush. Thank you. There we go.